Help protect us from racism and xenophobia by becoming an I Love Black People ambassador today. Join on iloveblackpeople.com. No matter where you are in the world, join us today and get access to the I Love Black People network. Special thanks to Banneker Communities.
And welcome to another edition of I Love Black People. And just so thankful to have another opportunity to share and explore some of the amazing and dynamic things that are happening throughout our global community of Blackness, and some of the amazing things at this most recent time is the winning of the Georgia runoff by Warnock, and the fact that he would be the first Black senator to have a full term to serve, which, again, actually could not have happened without the Black voters that participated. So definitely want to give a little shout out and kind of use this episode as an opportunity to kind of share my thoughts on some of these issues and kind of get everyone up to speed, some of the things that we've been doing as it relates to the work of I Love Black People. But just wanted to also, again, kudos to the voters that turned out. Midterms are always difficult times to get voter turnout, as it should, as well as a runoff, which, again, even has fewer folks coming out. But it's clear that folks showed up early and made sure that their voice was heard. And I think this is also, a good opportunity to talk about how important it is, no matter who wins, that we as a people and as peoples, that we make sure that whomever wins, that they are going to uphold our agenda. Elections might happen one day, or in this case, 2 election days, but there's still 363 other days that we should be engaged very actively in the politics that impact our lives. And I think as we mature politically, these are the things that we have to do more of. There are other constituents that have fewer people in the U.S. population than the Black communities, but literally have a lot of influence. And much of that has to do with an approach that's not just based on election day, but actually every day. And as we look at what happens in Georgia or what happens in any other of these states, or what we see with the current administration, it's up to us to make sure we hold all these politicians, the ones you voted for and won, or the ones you voted for but they lost and someone else won, they all are representative of us once they're in office. And it's important that we get more engaged in what's happening, no matter who's in control of the Congress or the Senate, the House or the Senate. We need to make sure that our agendas are heard. And I say agendas because as a people, we know we're not monolithic, but my number one agenda is reparations. So just as much as we're talking about reparations, that could be another person's number 3 issue. But that doesn't mean that we can't collaborate on our agendas. Because of the fact that mine might be 1 and it might be 3 on yours, we still can collaborate. And I think one of the things that's important is that we figure out ways to have these conversations without turning them into something that's negative or an attack on each other personally. We're not going to always agree, but we don't have to be disagreeable. And I think as adults, as we are adulting, that one of those things is, we still can talk about playing in the sandbox. We still can be kind and cordial and respectful of each other in our disagreements. And that probably will create a better work environment. I think as much of the work that we've done in politics, what Maya Angelou said many years ago, people may not remember what you say or what you do, but they will remember how you make them feel. And we don't have to have disagreements and make each other feel bad. And even if I look back in business and politics, being sarcastic and dismissive or mean has not been as helpful in life as kindness. I can look at many situations where uh, kindness has won out and returned, been a return on investment, and it literally costs nothing to be kind. So again, I'm not saying be someone who's passive and allows people to walk all over, but thank you and giving people a kind word can go a long way, because we never know what people are going through. So again, as we have our political discourse, that discourse being done in a way that allows people to still remain whole personally as individuals, even if the issues that we are discussing may be in conflict or at an impasse or disagreement. So I think it's very important as we look at and discuss so many of these issues politically as we leave this midterm season, that we know that it's 365 days in the year, that there's been 2 election days in Georgia, but most of us get 1 election day, which leaves us at least 364 days that we need to put our plan, our agenda into action. And it's not just going and lobbying or pushing for issues with your elected officials. It's us waking up every day and holding ourselves accountable to the issues that we're facing as a community. I think one of the things that we've seen coming up recently is a return of the deportation of, and this is switching gears. I personally do business in the Dominican Republic. We have some property and do some business there, and it's been really ongoing deportation of Haitian folks from Haitian descent. I say Haitian descent. The way I caught my words was because many of these folks were born in the Dominican Republic and they never lived in Haiti, but they're Haitian descent and they're being deported. And there's a word called statelessness, when you actually have a birth certificate or you're actually born in one country, but you don't receive a birth certificate, and yet they try to send you back somewhere where your parents are of origin. And again, we're still talking about an island where many of the people were brought from the continent of Africa, a few hundred years ago, and so even the ideal of identity can somehow get very interesting. But what I try to make sure what people understand if they visit Dominican Republic or these different countries, not just the Dominican Republic, but countries in general, the U.S. policies, this again goes back to the Senate and the House and these elected officials, have oftentimes more influence on these countries than their local politicians. Let me say another way. When we remember reflecting back on Afghanistan and the 20 years that the United States was at war with these folks in Afghanistan, the decisions by U.S. citizens, taxpayers, in many ways had more influence on what happened in Afghanistan than the Afghan person on the ground. So with that level of impact influence, we should take it more seriously, that one day that we participate in the whole 365, there's implications that are going to be felt not just by us locally, but it's locally in the United States, but it's felt by people all over the world. And we need to do more, especially as a Black community or Black communities, to make sure that those policies that are foreign policies aren't supporting racist behavior or policies locally in countries like the Dominican Republic, or again in Africa with AFRICOM and some the U.S. Racist sanctions against Zimbabwe. There are many policies that are going to come from the Senate and the House throughout this year that in many ways are a legacy of the neo-colonial methodology that led to the enslavement of our people and bringing it to the United States. But because there's a sophistication that has just changed the outward appearance, the exploitation in many ways is very similar. And we should let our voices be heard and make sure that we reach out to, again, our representation and talk about what is going on in these different U.S. embassies in these foreign countries to make sure that people are not being abused in our name, that our tax dollars are not being used to harm people. Earlier this year, we went to the Ukraine border with Poland to help some members of I Love Black People leave, help uh, them leave the invasion from the Russians, and they were facing racism, and they're fleeing Ukraine from the war and racism to get to Poland so they can either find another place to matriculate in school or go back home. But again, there's policies from the United States that's been sending billions of dollars to Ukraine. You know, we should not think that $1 billion is coming from someone else. It's coming from the U.S. taxpayer. And so it's important that these policies that could end up leading to nuclear holocaust, nuclear war, that we're being active in making sure that that doesn't happen. And oftentimes it really comes down to us being the ones that can stand up and actually vocalize these things to the people who represent us. So again, I think as we even talk about these election seasons, again, the real season is the everyday season of being a good citizen, of being a person who's being uh, responsible and accountable for their tax dollars and where they go to. So I just want to kind of give a big picture on some of the politics that we've seen. I think another big thing that's happened recently, Coach Prime. You know, I've definitely seen quite a bit of conversations about it as someone who's attended Tuskegee University as well as Howard University, Tuskegee and HU. You know, it's great to see what Coach Prime had done at Jackson State. I never attended Jackson State. I've been there and visited and been treated well. But to elevate the collegiate program, football program at Jackson State has benefited, I think, everyone, including those who attended HBCUs and didn't. Now, I didn't know, and many of you may know already, I didn't know Coach Prime actually finally got his degree. I know he went to Florida State, so I thought that was the end of it. But he actually got his degree, his bachelor's degree, BA, from Talladega University in Alabama. And I think it was like 2016 or 18. But, you know, I was thinking he was someone who attended predominantly white institutions who had came and blessed HBCU with his coaching and his leadership. But you know, I stand corrected, and you know, if you can do your own fact search, so y'all don't think this is fake news. I think it was like a remote course, and we can all talk about how people matriculate through college. But at the end of the day, he's got a degree from Talladega University. So kudos for him for finishing his education and choosing a HBCU to do that. That's a part of his legacy, is a part of his body of work. So I think what we've seen is some people saying that his willingness to take another coaching job, and there's people who I've seen people, you know, talk about what he should do, what he shouldn't do. And as we know, in this world of social media and in this world of, you know, we all have opinions. I think one of the things is key, though, like, you know, he picked his way, that he was going to contribute his skills, his ability, and Jackson State's administration and alumni and the city of Jackson received that. And for those who think he should have stayed, I think that's fair that people will think you should stay. And there's other people who say that it's great that he left. I think a part of the problem with some of these things, and people talk about celebrity, and I think with Coach Prime, he's done more than just be a name. He's been able to leverage so much of his body of work and focus it on the state of Mississippi, focus it on Jackson State. You know, of course, which has gone through this, you know, a horrible situation with the water. And that is again, going back to the government, making sure that we hold people accountable for the mistreatment of people within our own country. You know, we send money over, like I said, to Ukraine, and we got Black folks and American folks in the United States in Jackson who can't get access to drinking water. It's absurd. So for him to be in that type of environment and be able to contribute at some of the highest levels in his particular profession, I think is commendable. And if he decides to leave, you know, again, that's his decision, and he's going to have to live with it. His family's going to have to live with it. And I think us disagreeing with it or agreeing with it. I think it's, we're, as those who are consuming all of this news and watching and cheering on these athletic teams, I think it's fair that we say something. But at the end of the day, I respect his, him as an individual making these decisions in a way that's what he sees as the best interest of his future, as well as how it relates to his willingness to serve. And he's mentioned God, his willingness to serve our people, and his calling. I think sometimes we project on the people what we think they should do when the only life that we control is ours. And at the end of the day, he's inspired. I know he's inspired me, and I heard this from other people, to be more active in giving back to our HBCUs. And even people who didn't attend HBCUs, seeing and being motivated by the class and the level of success in execution that he's shown, has even motivated people who didn't attend HBCUs to take note. I think many people had never even heard, and this is no offense to the JSU folks, but some folks had never even heard about Jackson State. I had one person allude to the fact they thought Jackson State was in Alabama. Tuskegee's in Alabama. Jackson State is in Mississippi. So I think some of these things that we go on this journey, we might disagree which direction or street someone turns, what road or path they lead. But I think as we are all on a journey, looking at what he's done with his skills and his talent is been amazing. And the way he's done it with integrity and transparency, I think, again, his use of social media has been very intriguing. And he's invited people into many of the rooms that he's participating to give us a insight into how and who he is. And by doing so, invite people to better understand even a Jackson State, a college football, and actually understand the connection between college football as a business. I think one of the things that we were, I won't say tricked, but so often we were told, oh, college athletics was about, the esprit de corps, that we were just, teaching folks sportsmanship or sports personship, excuse the gender thing. In reality, it's big business. These people are making billions of dollars off our young people running a football. And when we talk about those billions of dollars, they try to tell us that it was good enough to give, just to have a scholarship, and that was fair compensation, while they were making billions of dollars, the offering of scholarships. And remember, we talk about scholarships. I'm not knocking scholarships. I think I had a couple of them. A lot of them were loans, but I had some scholarships, little grants in school. But in reality, when I didn't play sports. I was, I was just a student. But literally, if you're playing sports, you're literally generating income. And to be so essential part of that generation of income, yet the school offers you a scholarship, and no one would take that. If you would have, if your job said, instead of paying you, I'm going to give you a scholarship, you'd be like, no, you're going to pay me. Okay, I got bills to take care of. And then even with the concept of scholarships, who's telling you what the scholarship is worth? The same entity that's got you running on that football field. They're the ones who determined what the tuition cost was. Is the tuition cost the real cost of what it is to deliver that education? Probably not. It's probably a margin. It's probably a markup. There's probably something included in that. And should someone who's actually generating the funds that are being used to build, all these other facilities, should they be the ones who have to settle for just, compensation and saying you get a good education from here? Again, I think some of this that Dion has done is help people re-look at and reevaluate what these systems are really doing. And in a capitalist society, and you're literally exploiting young bodies that literally, as it relates to football, I think basketball is different in ways, but these are violent sports. This is a violent sport. These young people are risking literally their lives and being told that they shouldn't participate in the billions of dollars being generated. That just doesn't seem like, in a capitalist system, And I'm not saying I agree with capitalism. I think capitalism is very problematic. But with that being said, if there's a capitalist system, and in that system, you come up with a group of people who are not, who are justifiably or may justifiably not able to participate in the benefits fully of said revenues that are generated, something about that seems deeply problematic. So it's important, as I think what Dion has done in elevating so many things, that we take that moment and these moments and use them to do things that we may not have thought were possible, as well as think about things in new ways that we had maybe put to rest and thought we were, had come to a conclusion on. So I think, again, what Dion has done for us in so many ways of giving back to HBCUs, taking a serious analysis and understanding of the business of football, as well as understanding how we can all, be Coach Prime in our own lives, like to be somewhere where people don't want you to go because you've made such a big impact, where people would debate your presence. I think it's such a powerful thing. So some people just call that celebrity, but the brother is a winner. I mean, he didn't go there and lose. He went there and brought so much attention. He helped change rules. He helped change policies with his amazing leadership, with the support of the athletic director and the administration and students. I mean, and parents. Like, what was done over those last 3 years is a beautiful example of what and who we are. And I think we shouldn't get lost in the cult of personality. Again, Coach Prime is a personality, but he definitely gives an example of something that we all can do to make a better world. So I mean, I think that was one of the key things. I wanted to also, I was talking about elections. One of my favorite and one of the most amazing people who was reelected and actually made history. Somebody who's really is not a person that is a big personality, but someone who's made a huge impact. That's the mayor of the nation's capital, Mayor Muriel Bowser. Made history this past November, where she was reelected. She was elected for the third time, and when doing a brief review of the information, she's literally the first Black woman of a major city or capital in the world to be elected three times. And much of these things go undetected, especially when you have a personality like Muriel's, where she's not one of those folks who's a self-promoter. She really tries to lead by example and lead by her works. And I think that's a great thing. So just changing gears from a Coach Prime, to our good sister, Muriel Bowser, who adopted a daughter while in office. Sister Miranda, she's an example, without the fanfare of who we are as a people, holding ourselves accountable at the highest level, personally as well as professionally. And it's resulted in her being elected three times as the mayor of the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. And I think, again, it's important that people who may not toot their own horn, that we as people who, I think I've said this and I've learned this from so many people. Much of our life will not necessarily be centered around us and our leadership, but much of our life will be centered around our followership. How do we follow? How do we support leaders? And I think in the case of someone like Muriel Bowser, I think it's important that we do everything that we can to support leaders like herself, who may not self-promote, but do work that makes a difference in all of our lives. And I say this because even sometimes people think supporting someone means that you have to agree with everything they do. I think the point is we should be supportive of our leaders like her, who do so much, and make sure that there's not people out here attacking her because of their disagreements. You can disagree with someone without attacking them. And I think sometimes with our leadership, we wait till it's a crisis to stand up and affirm our support for them. So with someone like her, let's make sure we, even if you don't live in, again, our show is national, but she's the mayor of the nation's capital of the United States. So I say nations, I should say the United States capital, that everyone has a stake in her success, being that it's the capital. Even and of course it needs representation. DC statehood should be a state, but it's the capital. And no matter where you are in the world, we should be proud. You should be proud that there is a capital of the United States called Washington D.C. and the leader, the head of state, or the head of the seat of power is a Muriel Bowser, who's been committed to, again, affordable housing, world-class education, making sure the actual government works for the people when they need it most. And these are just some core tenets of who she's been, who she is, that deserves or warrants the support. And again, if she didn't do it, it would be hard for her to be elected 3 times. That's a three-peat. So we're so thankful for her, and we pray for her family and continued success. Transportation, finance, legal, healthcare, beauty, and finance, that they have access to Black-friendly spaces no matter where they are in the world. So with that being said, thank you so much for all your support year-round. And as I always end this, I am because we are, and I definitely wouldn't be me without you. So thank you all for joining us. Have an awesome, amazing day.
Help protect us from racism and xenophobia by becoming an I Love Black People ambassador today. Join on iloveblackpeople.com. No matter where you are in the world, join us today and get access to the I Love Black People network. Special thanks to Banneker Communities.